The Department of Trade, Industry and Competition has submitted a draft proposal which would allow student debt, the debt you incur as a student, to then be listed with credit bureaus. This then means that students will come straight out of university and find themselves either blacklisted or with adverse credit records because of that debt.
The Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition has withdrawn the draft regulations which listed educational institutions as originators of credit information contained in the National Credit Act Amendment regulations gazetted on the 13th of April.
Welcome back. So there has been mixed reaction to Trade Minister Parks Tau withdrawing the proposed amendment of the National Credit Act, which would have seen people with student debt blacklisted.
Welcome. We're thrilled you're here with us today. Your time, attention, and engagement mean the world to us. Thank you for choosing to join us. Let's dive into today's topic. We hope it sparks your interest and inspires meaningful conversation. Today's topic is deeply troubling. The former liberation movement, the ANC, is undermining the future of black South African youth. The ANC often cites Abraham Lincoln's phrase, "A government of the people, by the people, for the people," but this is mere rhetoric to deceive the unaware. In reality, it operates as a government influenced by artificial intelligence, AI, and serving elite interests. A recent example is the Department of Trade and Industry's withdrawal of a draft policy that proposed blacklisting students.
The Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition has withdrawn the draft regulations which listed educational institutions as originators of credit information contained in the National Credit Act Amendment regulations gazetted on the 13th of April.
Minister Parks Tau claimed he did not review the draft, yet its proposal by his office reveals a disconnect from the public. The public's backlash further proves the policy did not originate from the people, exposing the ANC's hollow claim of representing them. What's worse, parliamentarians who approve such drafts rarely read them. We were fortunate that the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, exposed this misconduct. How many other drafts have been passed into law without thorough scrutiny? It's likely that the draft was prepared using AI, a common practice today, even in PhD research. Critical thinking has been abandoned. However, AI is not truly artificial intelligence. It's human-generated intelligence through computers, HGITC. When controlled by those with malicious intent, it produces harmful outcomes. AI or human-generated intelligence through computers, HGITC, in policymaking remains a key concern. If the blacklisting draft was AI-assisted, it underscores the dangers of relying on technology without critical oversight. AI tools, often developed by Western corporations, may embed biases that prioritize elite or foreign interests over those of native Africans. When parliamentarians fail to read or question AI-generated drafts, they amplify these risks, allowing potentially harmful policies to slip through unchallenged. The ANC's reliance on such tools, or on former colonial consultants, reflects a failure to prioritize indigenous knowledge and public consultation, perpetuating a form of neo-colonialism. Parks Tau should have read the draft before handing it over. Leaders like Parks Tau must stop misleading the public, and citizens must demand accountability. Policies are crafted behind closed doors by so-called educated elites who fail to consult the people, resulting in policies that do not reflect the lived experiences of those they are meant to serve. Worse, if the ANC isn't relying on former colonial consultants, it uses AI developed by the same former colonizers. Do they believe these entities prioritize the interests of native Africans? An open commission is needed to investigate how these policy drafts are created. Such a commission could expose how many laws have been passed without proper review and ensure future policies reflect public needs. What are your thoughts? Share your comments below. That's a wrap for today. Thank you for sharing your time and thoughts with us. Your presence truly lights up our community. Stay curious, keep engaging, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right, let's go to this story then. The South African Union of Students has rejected the proposed amendments to the National Credit Act. They're saying that the situation will worsen unemployment among young people. the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition has submitted a draft proposal which would allow student debt, the debt you incur as a student, to then be listed with credit bureaus. This then means that students will come straight out of university and find themselves either blacklisted or with adverse credit records because of that debt. For more on this, we're joined by the South African University Students Association's spokesperson, Tato Masekowa, who joins us now. Tato, appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us. How bad is this for students? Because you come out of varsity thinking, well, I have the opportunity to now get myself somewhere, but now you'll have this debt that hangs around your neck and the inability to even move forward because of the adverse credit record.
No, and I thank Guarabile, and thanks for having us. Look, this is bad for the country. This is bad for young graduates. This is bad for young professionals who in fact find themselves in this crisis. Rather, even the proposal is spit on the face of the feast must fall generation. Moreover, this fact affects mostly young people who are from poor background and the working class, majority black to be more precise, because education is expensive, my brother, and once education is expensive, we know that we strive to get education. We strive to better the situations around ourselves. And what we have seen is that the proposal seeks to blacklist. You can imagine, once you are blacklisted as a young professional, already automatically your employment rate, your credit to buy a car, to buy a house, to buy anything on a credit, you're already at a back foot. And this in particular, you would have seen that it seeks to bring young students who literally have just graduated into debt and to recycle them and to drown them into debt. We see it as a way that the government is failing on its own duties to at least create meaningful ways to find ways to scrap the historic debt. We know that the people who do not have money to pay are most of the time, if not all the time, people who are poor, from poor background, the working class, and that affects them badly. And this, in fact, as the South African Union of Students, we reject it with the content that it has, and it must be reversed without even thinking twice.
Yeah, one might ask then, what current policies are helpful in this situation? And, you know, are there ones that could positively affect the ability for students to actually get debt and not work? Because at this point in time, you get this credit or you get this debt to you, and ultimately it just puts you on the back foot, as we've been noted. So how do current credit policies already affect students' ability to fund their education?
Look, automatically once there is no better policy in place that we believe is progressive, that speaks on a student's ability to repay while they do not have money. It is our view that students must not pay, like the feast must fall generation have indicated, the feast must fall, and etc. and etc. And without even taking it further, historic debts. We are from a conference of South, the 9th conference of South, and one of our key aspects is that the sector on its own and the government must really look into scraping out fees completely out of the system, because once a student owes you, you're already at a back foot. And there is nothing glorifying about owing a debt. You know, in fact, we want students, after you graduate, you must start on the same foot as everybody else. Start making your own life seeming. Now, if you're already starting to work, and at the same time you already don't have, you're starting to work, you don't have, on the same level, you're not starting on the same level, you already have a debt of some sort along your neck. This means that you must start paying the debt, starting to set up your life. Yeah. Already we know that the gap between the poor and the rich has already vastly increased, and that has put us at a very disadvantage. And therefore it was our view and our call that debts must not be there. For students in particular, this must be an incentive for students to say, if you go to school, we scrape out this debt so that you can actively participate in the economy of the country. And this must be the message preached that we think is best. Not that students must be subjected to repaying of debts, because that we see as a regressive, anti-poor, anti-progressive, and anything anti-progressive.
Tato, how much could this influence dropout rates in universities?
Look, it already, you know very well that the dropout rate is very high, and most of the time is based on access. That speaks to access, meaning financial exclusion, which is the core fundamental problem in as far as dropouts is concerned. Once you put this in place, you make the youth of the country and students in particular to lose hope in education. And therefore, it can vastly increase the dropout rates in the country and affect the students in general very negatively. Therefore, that's why we are calling for the immediate withdrawal of this proposal. That's why we, in fact, reject it.
There's the other side of this, Tato, that I must then bring up as well in the interest of fair journalism here, which is that at the end of a varsity term, somebody who may owe debt, whether it be to NSFAS, which we've continued to speak about on this channel, or any other debt, then perhaps doesn't pay it back. There's a large amount of outstanding debt. And I know you're speaking about cutting out that debt and clearing it. But there's so many people who haven't paid it, which then impacts the ability for somebody else to then have that ability to then study in future because of that funding. What other proposals would you then recommend for a situation like this?
So, of course, you put it very well, Warabile, my brother, that maybe your inability to pay might likely affect the other person. But there are multiple factors that affects this. You can only pay if you are employed. We have seen unemployment is on the rise almost, and the worst case scenario is that now you find almost everybody being affected by unemployment. That speaks to all sectors, all students in the sector. Basically, no one is safe from unemployment, and you cannot pay if you're unemployed. Right, and these guys keep on looking for money, even from people who are not paid. When you look at that, it already is a shift of responsibility from the government. But without any looking like we also are on the table to bring out solution. One of the solutions that must be thought about is that maybe you know how if you are to, when you finished your degree, the government should be in position to create an employment opportunity for you. Maybe that's one of the ways that could be looked at. But you are left alone. You have taken a loan. You have got a degree, but you don't have employment. You get employment for 3 months. And after that, you are retrenched or something else happens. Companies are closing down. The economy is bad. There's nothing good happening in as far as opportunities for young people are the case. And that, of course, has an impact on the inability to pay for young people. And in fact, this could have not been a situation provided that there is a viable solution in as far as the funding crisis is concerned. And you would have seen we've got a lot of students who are NSFAS beneficiaries to date without degrees. There is an understanding that people who are coming from NSFAS do not have means to an end. And if you don't have a degree, some employers will not even take you because they might believe that your degree is not valid for whatever reasons, or even not even shortlist you, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tato, I've only got 30 seconds. Very quickly, how do you mobilize students around this? In 30 seconds, please. So what we do is that as a union of students, we work with SRCs across the country. So the only way we work is we lobby SRCs to join the call, to withdraw, and of course bring a solution on the table, and then we take it from there. But without even thinking twice, the proposed amendment must be rejected, must be withdrawn with immediate effect. Minister Pakstau must reconsider this and withdraw that with immediate effect, and consult the youth, progressive youth in the country who can offer the best solution around this than to want to criminalize education.
Welcome back. So there has been mixed reaction to Trade Minister Parks Tau withdrawing the proposed amendment of the National Credit Act, which would have seen people with student debt blacklisted. Now, Black Business has reportedly accused the minister of caving into political pressure to withdraw the draft regulations after 20,000 submissions were received. Black Entrepreneurs Alliance CEO Mr. Refilwe Monageng joins us in studio for more reaction. Mr. Monageng, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I do want to start at the beginning, because what you saw last week was 20,000 submissions that were made as the minister opened up for public commentary. 20,000. I mean, that's an overwhelming amount of submissions. And then, of course, that leading to the minister withdrawing the draft amendments. But just right from the very beginning, once you saw those draft amendments hit in the past few weeks, initial thoughts for the Black Entrepreneurs Alliance?
Firstly, we were excited, because we've been advocating for credit amnesty. And we know that credit amnesty has been done before in 2014. Now, if you look at the National Credit Act, it was enacted in 2006. And next year it will be marking 20 years. And it should be up for review. And at the moment, it's not aligned with its regulations. And the draft submissions were in order probably to realign it. But it seems like the minister and the department officials were seemingly misinformed, because the very amendments with regards to student loans were already in the National Credit Act since 2006. So we were excited, because it meant that what we've been fighting for, and religiously so, because since after COVID, a lot of Black entrepreneurs have been blacklisted for a lot of reasons. And we thought that credit amnesty, like it was done in 2014, was going to be an opportunity for a restart. Not only that, but to give entrepreneurs an opportunity to access equitable finance with the various banking instruments that are there. And you can appreciate, Naledi, we still have racial profiling. And this was going to be also an opportunity to bring an equilibrium to ensure that Black people, meaning Indians and Coloreds, also access this finance that's equitable, which at the moment we're not accessing. And us lacking to access finance, it ensures that we can, or rather our members cannot perform with the purchase order numbers that they get either from government or from corporate companies, thus affecting service delivery, thus having a narrative that Black business cannot perform or deliver on time on the basis of accessing equitable credit.
I think that and allow us to do this, Mr. Monageng, because a lot of this gets so technical. Over the past week, as we've been having this conversation, you've got bodies like the EFF-SC and student bodies that have come out and said this is going to hurt students who have student debt, and it's going to limit the opportunities that they already have. I mean, at some point, the argument was made that for those that leave university with a student debt, they don't even have their very own documentation of what they've been able to achieve in their studies because of that student debt that is still lagging. So when you say that really what this legislation and the amendment aimed to do was to realign the legislation for the sake of small businesses, explain to us the how, so that people are able to understand what it was going to do for small businesses.
So what it was going to do, it's that credit bureaus were going to tailor, and I don't hold a brief for Capitec or Discovery Bank, but that's what they do. So Capitec tailor makes your behavioral patterns financially as an entrepreneur. So what you can do without the credit bureau, they can look at the income that comes, how you use your money, what you are left with, and on the basis of that and consistency of income coming into your bank account, the bank can make a determination to say, therefore, this person as an individual entrepreneur, they could qualify for so much in the ambits and frameworks of the National Credit Act, so that they don't give you more money than you require. So at the moment, the law is absent on that in terms of tailor-make. Don't just use a general approach in how you do credit scoring. But this one was going to really personalize your financial behavioral patterns, and which we were excited about, because as small, medium, micro enterprises, it's very good, because then they'll be able to access finance. But more so, it will also allow the unbanked people that are selling at your Bree Street, your Noor taxi rank, access to be able to lend more, to borrow more money and grow their businesses. So that's why for us it meant that. But also on what you touched on with regards to student loan,
right.
It's important that the law is read, the National Credit Act. Since 2006, and I repeat, Naledi, it was inside that law, and the educational institutions are allowed through credit bureaus to get access to that information. And maybe the student chapters should be advocating for credit amnesty, because we also are advocating for that, to say historic debts, let them be wiped out so that we have a fair start. So it's about credit amnesty. And that's where maybe business and them might be missing each other. But in terms of alignment, we could say, let's advance credit amnesty. And again, it was done in 2014. And someone can ask to say, okay, what would be the parameters and frameworks of this credit amnesty? Would say make it broad.
Okay.
It's like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You are giving forgiveness. So we are saying people that have debts, let them be forgiven so that we have a restart, not only for ourselves, but it also benefits the economy and the banks, because the business of banks is to lend out money to entrepreneurs like our members, is to lend out money to students. And these students, we see them as future entrepreneurs and future employers and future executives in the banking and corporate space. So we do support them. Having said that, let's advance credit amnesty. And for businesses, let's advance regularizing and realignment in terms of regulation and the law to ensure that personalized, bespoke financial adjudication can be done for entrepreneurs. And this is important, Naledi, because if you look at the FinMark report of 2024, it says that in South Africa, there's 13 million small micro entrepreneurs. And of those entrepreneurs, they employ 13.5 million people. And as of January 2025, the banks had advanced to these entrepreneurs 274 billion. Now, this is supported, we know as Black Entrepreneurs Alliance, it's supported by the Banking Association of South Africa and Business Unity South Africa. They also support what we stand for as Black Entrepreneurs Alliance, because it would ensure that entrepreneurs, especially Black entrepreneurs, have access to finance.
Right.
So that they can also not become economic spectators, but become active economic participants in this economy. If you talk about economic growth, job creation, what does it mean to a micro and small, medium entrepreneur? So with this law, it would mean that they are participants and they also taste to know how it feels to have money.
You've got Kulegani Mate, who's the CEO of Business Unity South Africa. They've come out and said that the minister has botched the policy-making process and that he's given into political pressure. Do you share that view?
We do share that, because and why we're saying that, you look at the turnaround. Just before the closing date of all their submissions, the minister just renegated on that. And it was an opportunity for them to do administrative justice in terms of consultation. Get all the submissions from business, from civil organizations, and ensure that even student chapters, and ensure that when you adjudicate, at least it's on an informed basis and therefore make a determination. But we hope that this delay becomes an opportunity for the minister and the department to also realign with other departments like Department of Small Business, and ensure that when they come back, this will benefit each and every South African entrepreneur and non-entrepreneur, so that people in South Africa must find expression in the economy. We are tired of becoming economic spectators, hearing about money, looking at people making money. We see it even on social media that so-and-so is making money. What does it mean to a micro, small entrepreneur? It means with this law that they will have expression to walk into a bank, borrow money that's equitable with good instruments. Because, Naledi, do you know within banks, there's a lot of financial instruments. There's not only overdraft and a loan, but there's other instruments, and there's also something called structured finance, whereby with this structured finance, there's personal finance that can be tailor-made for you,
Yes.
so that you qualify and you are set up for success. So this is an opportunity for, especially for black people, to be set up for success, to enter into the financial economy.
Okay, steps that the Black Entrepreneurs Alliance will be taking forward. I know that you did mention that part of this, and again, I'm taken aback by the 20,000 submissions before that deadline on Friday. For the minister, of course, he made the withdrawal before that. Were you part of that 20,000 steps that you'll be taking moving forward?
Well, we were not part of it because we've been advocating. In fact, when all this started in 2023, early 2024, we wrote to the CEO of the National Credit Regulator. We also written to Parliament, and we wrote to the minister. This is on record, whereby we're proposing for these amendments, and on the basis of credit amnesty, we were staying there. And also we wrote to the Revenue Services and the Minister of Finance to say we also need tax amnesty. So you cannot have credit amnesty without tax amnesty, because still after you have money, you still need to pay SARS. And there's entrepreneurs that have historic debts with regards to SARS. So this submission, we need to ensure that how do you align with tax and ensuring that the credit regulator is aligned with that, because there are entrepreneurs at the moment that can't ever start because they got large sums of money that they owe to SARS. So we will be writing to the minister and say, would you be so kind and reconsider your position to reopen it, so that you listen and read all submissions for the policy and against the policy, and make a clear determination to say what is good for South Africa. Because our position is that credit amnesty, and for micro, small, medium entrepreneurs to find expression in the financial sector, for them to be able to be borrowed money by the banks, the IDC, the NEF, and it used to be called some of the youth fund, it used to also be called the Youth Commission. So all that monies that are saying it's for the youth, young people must be able to access that money, especially those that come from university. They need to get credit amnesty, so that when they go borrow money, historic debts are not looked at, but the basis of their proposals and their business plan, it's the one that's advanced.
Yeah. It's been very fascinating. Thank you so much for your insights. We really have appreciated Mr. Refilwe Monageng, the CEO of the Black Entrepreneurs Alliance, saying really what we need at this point is a discussion around credit amnesty. All right, that's that discussion. We're going to take a short break. More news on the other side. Stay with us.
The Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition has withdrawn the draft regulations which listed educational institutions as originators of credit information contained in the National Credit Act Amendment Regulations, gazetted on the 13th of August. Minister Parks Dou's decision is informed by the overwhelming response comprising more than 20,000 submissions. Most respondents have opposed the proposed regulations. Dau says the process has once more demonstrated the robust nature of South Africa's democracy, where the public is able to engage with government in an open, transparent manner. The minister has further committed to a process which will consider the changes that are required to enhance the protection of students, while continuing with efforts aimed at improving access to finance for SMMEs to plug the credit funding gap that currently exists.